Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
A massive warm welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, in May last year, regular listeners may remember that I spoke to Ori Eisen on this podcast, who is the leader of the no passwords revolution. The founder and CEO of Trusona spent the last 20 years building technology to fight online crime and create a safer internet, including working as a worldwide fraud director at Amex and then founding and selling his first company called 41st Parameter to Experian for an incredible $324 million. Now, in that conversation, we discussed his startup journey and how the concept of great idea, make a lot of money in an exit, and then retire is actually not the answer. And we discussed the need to have a purpose and how financial gain is not the answer. It's about having your own mission to make a difference. And this is a subject that Ori knows all too well, and one of the reasons why he's so passionate about Trusona and his mission to eliminate passwords. The product is so secure that Frank Abagnale, the real-life catch-me-if-you-can con artist turned 4-decade FBI vet, signed on as an active advisor. While we all commiserate and recognise that passwords is the bane of our online existence, we need to remember it's only the technologies from the 60s that hasn't changed that we still use today. And Ori's approach isn't about just ending the use of passwords at all, it's finding safer, simpler replacement that genuinely reinvents authentication, but for the modern era. And as regular listeners will know, I always try and meet guests and listeners whenever I'm on my travels. So while I'm in Arizona, I decided to swing by Ori's office and hoped he would find time to speak with me, and thankfully he did. And upon entering the office, I saw a Catch Me If You Can movie poster signed by Frank Abagnale and so much other cool stuff around as well. And I must admit, it felt kind of weird having spoken to Ori on my podcast and understanding his story and his mission. But this time, I was in his living and breathing working environment and where the magic happens. What happened next? Well, buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Phoenix, Arizona, so we can speak with Ori Eisen, the leader of the no passwords revolution and founder CEO of Trusona. So at the end of every interview, I always promise every guest if I'm ever in their town, I will meet them in person. So here we are in Phoenix, Arizona, recording our second interview in person. But for anyone that missed our first chat, Ori, can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Yes, thank you, Neil, so much for having me again. Clearly, you did not learn from the first time. We are here in Scottsdale, Arizona at Trusona's headquarters, where we are eliminating passwords from the internet all over the world. And I'm the founder and the VP of whatever it takes to win.
So you are also a founding member of Security Canyon, which is Arizona's cybersecurity coalition. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that work and who's actually involved?
Yes, we started a coalition 5 years ago after banding together with all the cybersecurity companies here in town. At first, we didn't realize how many were there. And we have a shared pain point, which is how do we find the next cybersecurity hero to come work for us? Silicon Valley is filled with people, other places in the world are. Phoenix is just not known for having security folks. So we devised a plan and we invited academia, for example, to join our midst and offer students who are here internships within our company. So instead of thinking, I have to go work at Google in order to succeed, they can stay here in the Valley. We posted a website with jobs that are currently open in Phoenix. So if you want to pay a high mortgage in California or you want to come live here, you at least see the options. And also talked about the quality of life. I don't know if you've been to California as an example.
Yeah.
Traffic there is horrendous. I go there once a month and every time I'm there, I'm like, how do people do this every day? So if you want to work in a meaningful environment on cybersecurity, but have a quality of life, be able to own a home, have great education for your kids, and come to work in flip-flops, Scottsdale is your place.
So after spending a little time here in Arizona, one of the things that I've noticed is that there is a big cybersecurity scene here at the moment. So for people listening to us today all over the world, can you just help set the scene of what that community is really like here?
Yeah, we had the early days with financial services firms. I know people don't think about them as cyber companies like American Express and Discover and banks. However, they're fighting the same criminals we are, so they have risk centers, they have coders here who are fighting the same fight. After that, you had another age of companies like LifeLock, as you mentioned before, Todd Davis, where they started thinking about identity protection. In case listeners do not know, Maricopa County, where we're sitting right now, is the hotbed of identity theft in America. It is related to drug trafficking from Mexico, and if you study law enforcement, you'll see why that happened. So we thought that if this is the center of it happening, we should also make it the center of us fighting it. Yeah. And then you had other companies relocating to town, like PayPal and others who now have risk centers also with fraud departments. And companies like CellTrust and Cybersponse and Trusona and others are pure play security companies that have evolved out of this community to now have companies that are leading the way. So you don't have to be in Silicon Valley in order to create the company that will remove passwords from the world.
So in our first interview, we discussed the need to have a purpose and how financial gain is not actually the answer. It's about having your own mission to make a difference. Now, I recently read how Trusona introduced passwordless 2FA integration for Pulse Connect Secure VPN. So can you offer an update on that story and how your mission's going to actually eliminate passwords?
Yes, the mission has not changed. We're still here to make it hard on the bad guys to waltz into people's accounts. The current status quo, as you know, is most of our accounts are protected by static username and password. So when they're hacked or breached, the bad guys have the keys to get in. By adding Trusona to Pulse VPN users, now no longer just username and password allow you to get into a network. And that helps us on our mission to get rid of password and curb the funding of evil this way.
So the cybersecurity community in Phoenix will be very attractive to a lot of startup founders that are listening to us at the moment. So what advice would you give to anyone thinking of relocating their business to the region?
First of all is cost. If we talk about office space or cost of hires, way lower than other centers like New York, California, and Seattle. Second is you have a very vast set of students that are finishing their degrees at ASU, UAT, and University of Arizona to recruit people to come in, and the fact that you're not going to be the first. So we have companies like this Switzerland company, Kubelski, who moved another headquarters here to Scottsdale as part of them expanding their footprint worldwide. So I do think it is now more established than ever that you can come here, have like-minded individuals, people to recruit from, and bring your own employees to this environment.
So as for Trusona then, can you tell me a little bit more about your expanded partner programs? Because I think they include service and technology firms to extend the reach of passwordless multi-factor authentication. Can you just expand a little on that?
Sure. As a company that is growing, we cannot serve everybody everywhere on our own, so we need partners. You can literally look behind you. We have a delegate here with 10 people who came from Japan, from NTT-AT, which is advanced technology, to take Trusona's product and go sell them all over Japan. We have people here from Europe this week who are taking our product through partnerships there. And in the United States, our investor Microsoft is helping us spread out. Companies like ForgeRock, companies like Okta are helping us take our product and weave a joint story that says not only can you have a great IAM, which is Identity and Access Management System, you can add the Trusona shim on top of it and turn that into a passwordless Identity and Access Management System.
So I've only been here for a couple of days, but I've already seen so many great examples of how driverless vehicles, wearables, Industry 4.0, cybersecurity and blockchain technologies, just to name a few, that are really thriving in the area. But is there anything that you're finding particularly exciting in the region and that you could maybe share with us today?
Yeah, the one thing I find exciting is the driverless cars. I don't know how they picked Trusona, specifically Tempe, to be the city on which all these things will be tested. But I'm very happy because that means this is going to be our future. People are going to do this. And hopefully some of the engineers who are working on this will stay here again to help promote the 4.0 atmosphere that we're building here. That if you're into cybersecurity, either IoT or other plays, that this will become a hotbed of making it. I think in other places around the world you could do the same thing, but again the cost structure, the amount of people you'll have to do it with might not be the same. So I'm super excited about that people are looking at Arizona as, okay, if I have something to go test, I can go do it there and maybe build another set of headquarters there.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned the driverless cars there, because even from the UK, I think Arizona is seen as the hotbed of activity for it, isn't it? And that's where all the testing is. Is it because of why is that? Is that because of the roads and it's just ideally suited for that testing? Or
might be our smart mayors who said, you know what, we'll take the risk in our roads, but we'll also have some high tech coming our way. I honestly don't know how it came to be, but I'm super happy that it did.
So if we have a business leader listening, interested in implementing a robust yet easy to use 2FA solution, what advice would you offer to help them find that best fit for their employees while protecting their organisation?
The first thing is go read about what is not working.
Yeah.
We are filled now with older generation solutions like text, SMS, one-time passcodes, tokens that people need to carry. Those have been here with us for about 20 years and unfortunately have been foiled by the bad guys. So keep doing that and paying money for it is just not a good idea. As you look into the future of what is happening next, go ask your users, what will they use? Because time and again, the reason people come to Trusona is not because they don't have strong security as it is. They actually do, but it is so unusable that employees go around it. A famous person in UX, Jared Spool, said, if it's not usable, it's not secure. We're great believers in that. So as you go on your search to find 2FA solutions, don't only look for security, look for usability. Today on your iPhone, you're expecting one click, nice sounds, nice UI. We have grown a whole generation of people who are expecting everything to look beautiful. So when you show them manuals that are 50 pages long from the 80s, they're just balking at it. So as you go on your search, go look for companies who are matching both security and usability. And definitely, I'll put my plug here. Consider Trusona in your search.
Is that a message that businesses are getting now, do you think? That yes, it needs to be user-friendly and it also needs to be secure and they need to do something different. Is that message getting through?
Let me tell you two quick stories without mentioning the customer names. One of them came to us and said, after inspecting their IT help desk call center, they realized 40% of all the calls they're getting is about, I locked myself out, help me with my password. 40%. So think about it. It's a cost that you're dragging with you because you're using passwords. It does not serve any need for the business. It's just an unblocker. So removing that from your cost structure, clearly something you want to do. A second is a company who told us we do have a VPN solution, a virtual private network for people who dial in remotely. It's just that they're not using it. And when you ask them, why aren't you using it? They said, have you read the manual that is 50 pages long in order to just... Like, but it's secure. The security guys say, yeah, but I don't have time for this. So if you want to provide something for employees, make sure that it's also usable and not just pay for it and implement it and then realize nobody wants to deal with it. So I do think the more we tell that story and the more people do introspective searches, like, hey, is that really happening in my shop? They're coming back and say, oh my God, I didn't even know. I think usability is going to play a major role going forward because the generations who are now entering the workforce, all they know is that. So if you give them technologies from 20 years ago, it will be like giving you now a rotary dial phone and ask you to use it. And you're like, why? What is this doing on my desk?
Yeah. So before I do let you go, Ori, is there anything else you can share with me today about the road ahead for Trusona and also indeed the tech industry right here in Arizona?
Yes, I would say that we are probably 18 months away from seeing some transformational changes, and they will be mainly because of the use of machine learning and artificial intelligence that will be now inserted into many, many, many places that you are not even thinking of. So even Siri on your phone is a form of AI, and I believe Arizona will be on the leading edge of the two-factor authentication, removing passwords, cybersecurity, and weaving those technologies into the fabric of what we do. There's no escaping it. It's just coming our way.
Now, as a Brit that's over here for Super Bowl weekend, I've got to ask as well, who are you going to be cheering on this weekend?
Not the Patriots. Sorry, Patriots fans. Yes, I was hoping to see one Super Bowl without the Patriots, but hey, we'll see who's going to win. Go Rams.
Fantastic. Well, before I do let you go, can I just ask that you remind the listeners of where they can find out more information about Trusona and maybe even contact a member of your team if they've got any questions?
Yeah, everything could be found on our website, trusona.com, Trusona.com, and also try the experience right from our homepage so you can have your first no password login. And after that, if you want to go back to typing username and passwords, be my guest.
Well, after 758 episodes, I think you're the first guest that I've actually met for a second interview, actually in person. It's been an absolute pleasure, Ori, so thanks for taking the time to meet me today.
Thank you for having me.
I love the Trusona manifesto, which is quite simply, make the internet more secure and eliminate passwords. And Ori does have an amazing backstory, but he has also dedicated his life to fighting online crime. And a great story here. One day, while serving as the worldwide director of fraud at a top bank, he asked the question, where does the stolen money go? And what is it being used for? And by whom? Unfortunately, he learned the answers. And he said, once you learn it, you cannot just sit by and do nothing about it. You must take action. And so many times I'm asked about tech startup journeys, or Neil, you've interviewed 750 CEOs or startup founders. What is it that motivates them? What do they have in common? And I think his answer to me there really epitomised that. It's not about sitting back and doing nothing. It's about being inspired by something and wanting to take action and do something about it. And in Ori's case, when he found out that online fraud was actually money stolen over the internet that funds the narcotics, weapons, terrorism, human traffic and child exploitation, that's why he set out to protect online businesses, so these funds are not just handed over to the criminals with their nefarious activities. And the reality is, many current cybersecurity solutions are just not cutting it. And like I said at the beginning of the show, passwords were invented in the early 60s, and they have not had a single innovation since. Maybe it is time to move on and do what he's doing with Trusona. And having met Ori face to face, I must admit I found him both admirable and inspirational in equal measure. But despite the serious subject matter, he also had me in stitches with his vast selection of comedy noises from a variety of musical instruments at his disposal. Yes, online fraud and eliminating passwords might be a serious business, but it doesn't have to stop you having fun, right? A man after my own heart, and he also gave me a t-shirt and a pair of socks and a mug as I left the office, which I'm wearing right now as I record this outro, but not in a weird way, you understand. And I must admit, I do love being able to chat the breeze with people changing the world through technology and making it a safer place. But getting out of my tiny office in my home in the UK and meeting guests face to face, it doesn't get any better than that. And I always say that technology works best when it brings people together. And I kind of live by that. But my time in Phoenix has actually enabled me to think and see bigger than that. Because Greater Phoenix is known as the connected place where businesses are using technology to come together and change the way that we live. And while companies over here seem to be pushing the limits and making the world better and making it smarter, I've heard so many stories of how individuals are coming here to just start their business or even relocate it to this Greater Phoenix area. And by innovating with sensor technology and challenging the status quo in the Internet of Things market, the legacy companies and emerging startup disruptors are actually taking the market by storm. And it really does feel an incredibly exciting time over here right now. And another phrase I heard earlier was it feels very much like Silicon Valley in the early days. But enough of me rambling about my travels and who I've met. What I want to know is, what are your thoughts about today's episodes, killing passwords, and indeed the tech scene in Arizona, or your part of the world too? Maybe you're proud of where you are and the tech things that are happening there, and you want to shout about it too. So this is where I need your input, I need your insights. So please, I implore you to send me an email directly to techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter or Instagram @NeilCHughes, because I want you to be a part of this conversation too. So tomorrow I'm going to be talking with a major player in the blockchain and crypto space before I leave Phoenix, but that's it for today. So I just want to give a big thank you for each and every one of you listening to this podcast, and I'll return tomorrow. So until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.